Okay, hi everyone. My name is Chris Martin. I'm Managing Director of a firm called Urban Movement. We design streets and transport within public spaces. I'm not a landscape architect, I'm an urban designer, so I'm not going to talk about the environment. I spend most of my time thinking about how cities work, why some streets are alive and others feel empty, why some invite walking and conversation, while others simply corridors for traffic. What this exercise has offered up is something curious, that one of the most powerful pieces of urban infrastructure isn't concrete or steel, it's planting. A single street tree can slow cars, shade pedestrians, mark a crossing, create a meeting place, host birds, support small businesses, and give a child somewhere to climb, all at the same time. And trees and planting, as such, are not decoration, they are systems infrastructure. The question isn't simply should we plant, it's how does planting shape the behaviour and life of streets. So, planting is systems infrastructure. If we are to understand this, we need to understand that we exist in and design within a system, so we need to be systems thinkers if we're going to succeed. And systems thinking understands that situations are interconnected wholes rather than isolated parts. It's about understanding the relationships, interactions, and interdependencies within a system to identify the root causes of problems and develop effective solutions. Essentially, when we pull at the thread and change the natural order, there are connected consequences. And people always talk about systems thinking and no one really knows what it means. So here's an illustration. In the 1950s, the Dayak people of Borneo here experienced a malaria outbreak. So they called the World Health Organization. The WHO responded by spraying the island with DDT, which successfully killed the malaria-carrying mosquitoes. However, it also led to the sudden collapsing of the island's thatched roofs. Turns out that the DDT also killed off a parasite that kept the population of caterpillars in check. The caterpillars, free from the killer parasites, rapidly mutated and ate their way through their favourite diet of thatch. The WHO replaced all the roofs with tin. Raining a lot in Borneo, this proved to be incredibly distressing, the sound of rain on tin all the time, making homes completely untenable. At the same time, the DDT also wriggled its way into the food chain, from the DDT-resistant bugs into geckos, which were the diet of choice for the cats. And the cats couldn't tolerate the increasingly concentrated DDT in their bellies, so they died. And so rats flourished, and the rat population wasn't able to be kept in check. So multiplying, unhindered, eating away through their food supplies and their grain supplies, they finally introduced the plague. In desperation, Borneo once more turned to the WHO, whose only solution to restore equilibrium was to parachute in cats. True story. Why is this relevant? It is relevant because we are walking animals. It's a fact. Looking at our pelvis, looking at our shape, looking at our foot structure, vertebrae, tendons, all the fossil evidence you can think of, humans are evolutionary adapted to bipedal walking. The evidence is overwhelming across many scientific disciplines. Our natural habitat, our natural system is to live in sociable, walkable places. But let me tell you, we have pulled at the thread of this natural system for sure. We've created places that make walking impossible. And we've created human habitats where our natural system is disregarded, ignored, discouraged, making walking impossible, unattractive, and simply untenable. Pulling at this thread and disrupting the system has caused serious consequences. Cities globally are experiencing unprecedented levels of obesity, diabetes, stress, anxiety, loneliness, premature death, as well as economic decline, flooding, increased heats, exactly because we have disrupted the natural system and pulled at the thread of our own human habitat. So if we care about healthy cities and we care about walkable places, we should care about walkable places. Walking and wheeling is the most democratic form of transport. Every journey starts and ends with it. It's free, it's social, and it's good for public health. But we do not walk simply because we've provided the legally required pavement. We walk where streets are interesting, comfortable, shaded, and sociable. Trees and planting are one of the most powerful ways to make walkable places and make walking and wheeling feel natural. And that's because they provide shade, they provide enclosure, they provide rhythm to a street, they provide visual interest, they provide pauses and meeting places. We all know this in our hearts, but we don't do it all the time when we design. So if we are going to be systems thinkers and succeed in the built environment system, delivering human habitat, we must be clear on the power of trees and of planting, and clear of the power they have to benefit multiple urban systems simultaneously. But we all know the built environment profession or system isn't wonderful at working across silos, sometimes blinkering itself to the system which continues next door. transport, climate, health, ecology, economy, environment. But we know cities don't work in silos. We do not experience places in silos, and to be successful, we cannot work in silos. So I would argue that the urban tree, the urban planting plan, is the veritable stick to beat these silos with, because trees operate across systems. One intervention that produces multiple outcomes all at once for transport, for public health, for social life, for climate, for economy, for biodiversity, for play. And all this understanding and experience fed into our work in Hackney, which I'm going to talk about a little bit, where we were the lead designers for the Amherst Road Green Corridor. Amherst Road, the street, is at the heart of Hackney Central, forming the interchange between Hackney Central and Hackney Down stations, which together makes one of the UK's busiest stations. Being an interdisciplinary practice, we went about a series of urban investigations from an urban design, from a landscape, from a traffic engineering perspective. 40% of the street was hard and impermeable. Of the green space there was, it was either mown lawn or overgrown shrub beds. None was fully accessible, and nothing was doing any heavy lifting for the environment. Only 30 street trees in 400 metres. The only genuine public people space was provided by narrow footways with no planting, which only made up 17% of the street. We spent a lot of time, understanding bus movements, thinking about how we can better improve stopping and standing, but also how we can create effective and attractive waiting environments fit for purpose and fit for growth of the bus network, with enough seats, enough shelter, and enough shade and enough enjoyment to make public transport, even at busy times, easy and enjoyable. And we thought about urban design analysis from a place perspective and what character is along the street, and how do we connect these interconnected characters without creating clearly defined character areas, just giving a different intensity, a different rhythm, and a different scenario to make walking and wheeling interesting. So all of that analysis, all the conversations, all our co-design and our collaboration led us to develop a series of quite quick sort of what-if scenarios to really test how we can transform a 4-lane road that prioritised movement over place into a kind of a different version of the future, all to garner reaction and opinion, and to help raise the level of ambition, of course, to give people the confidence to say what they want to see and not to be constrained by what we've generally been told streets need to look like. And I think this is a really massive point when talking to people about streets. Inspiring people to challenge what we've come to accept as normal is your main task. And all of this got fed through a huge range of different engagement, of co-design, of actually genuinely listening to people, genuinely taking on board their principles and ideas, and actually giving them the pen to influence what happens next. And this process gave us our design drivers, really, our drivers for change, our project missions. We took the tarmac down to 1 lane in each direction through traffic management design at Hackney Central by the bridge, because we needed more space. We needed to get more value from the other space that we had. The station arrival experience didn't really exist. This totem existed, but in isolation. This is a massive part of the street, and we wanted to keep the totem. It's doing a good job. It's carbon. There's no point in getting rid of it. But we wanted to soften the space intensely, adding shade and shelter, planters and gardens, seats and waiting spaces, permeable materials, and a playable triangulation sculpture. Really kind of giving you that meet me at Hackney Central, which doesn't exist at the moment. And connectivity across the street is as much part of our design as connectivity along. So at every junction, every 25 metres, both sides, double down on pedestrian priority, zebra crossings, linking spaces, and also delivering continuous footways along the street at every side street. We created really compelling waiting and interchange environments for bus infrastructure. It gives you all the stuff you'd expect, the digital displays and the signs, but also extensive planting, extensive shade and shelter, sculptural wooden seating around planting areas to create relaxing environments and calming environments, which we also need in the street. And where we don't have buses needing the curbside, which quite frankly is most of the street, we have introduced rain gardens at the carriageway edge in the space one back from tarmac, and this is where we have the utility-free zone, importantly, but also this helps us to improve air quality, but also process all the surface water on footway, on carriageway, and all hard standing, draining now into rain gardens. We've also worked really hard to develop a series of calming spaces where people can relax and disconnect from the urban environment, making Hackney Central more accessible to neurodivergent users especially, but of course better for everyone else. Having suitably accessible and frequent sensory escape spaces like this to rest was a key driver for the street and really an important and often forgotten accessibility requirement, which we try to embed in our work. So what did we achieve along Amherst Road? We got a 43% reduction in tarmac, excuse me. We got a 30% increase in pedestrian space, more than twice the space of London Fields Lido, if you know it, of newly created accessible green space, rain and surface water processed through nature-based solutions and rain gardens, and pedestrian priority throughout. It's still under construction, and Meristem are very involved in this, in helping delivery, but you're starting to see the spaces take shape, and you're starting to see some of that invitation. But we also developed quick win spaces, and it speaks to the last presentation, almost exactly like that little side street in Islington. This one is obviously in Hackney. The new Hackney Central entrance is just at the end there, past that bus. And this was really a quick win scheme to basically help us reimagine what monosyllabic streets like this that have plagued cities since cars started to shout loudest can be. And we delivered that really quickly, straight at the beginning of the scheme, to really to show people what streets can be, to really inspire people that you should challenge what you've become used to around you and ask what you want in the streetscape. Thank you very much.